I once sat across from my dear friend Claire at her kitchen table, the lingering scent of fresh coffee swirling through the air. She was 78 at the time, her wavy silver hair tied neatly at the nape of her neck. There was a look of concern on her face, but also a spark of determination in her eyes as she tried to recall the name of a neighbor she'd known for decades. Minutes passed. Her gaze drifted to the window. Her knuckles tapped the table in a nervous rhythm. Finally, she let out a soft laugh, admitting in a quivering voice, "I know it's in here somewhere. My brain just isn't what it used to be." That simple confession hit me like a jolt, because it wasn't just about remembering a name. It was about feeling the slow slip of independence and identity that can come when our minds don't stay as sharp as we'd like. In a world filled with tips, tricks, and quick-fix remedies, seniors like Claire often end up feeling lost or overwhelmed, not sure which advice truly makes a difference. And let's face it, the stakes are high. The ability to recall everyday details, stay mentally agile, and confidently engage in conversation isn't just about memory. It's about dignity, freedom, and the joy of daily life. After all, who wants to fear losing a piece of themselves every time they forget a detail or mix up a loved one's birthday? There's more at stake here than pride. Experts warn that when we neglect our cognitive health as we move past 75, we risk serious conditions that can rob us of cherished freedoms, like driving a car, living independently, or maintaining the relationships that sustain us. But there's tremendous hope on the horizon. In the next few minutes, we'll explore 5 neuroscience-backed strategies that could transform the way you think, remember, and live, no matter your age. Yes, even if you're 85 or older, the brain remains surprisingly adaptable. By the time you've heard all 5 strategies, you'll see how it's possible to sharpen your mind, preserve your sense of self, and open doors to new possibilities that many seniors assume are closed forever. Stay with me until the very end, because the last strategy we'll discuss is something almost nobody talks about, and it has the potential to accelerate your mental clarity more than any supplement or puzzle app you've tried before. What I'm sharing here isn't based on guesswork or wishful thinking. These methods are drawn from emerging scientific research on the aging brain, research that is finally gaining traction among doctors and specialists. But it's not just science, it's also real-life experience from people just like Claire, who found themselves at a crossroads and chose a new path, discovering that cognitive decline doesn't have to be inevitable. Before we begin, I'd like to ask for your help. If you find value in what you hear today, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if at any point you feel this content resonates with you, maybe it sparks a sense of relief or excitement, drop a 1 in the comments. If it leaves you with more questions than answers, drop a 0 so I'll know how to improve. Your feedback helps us continue creating content that empowers and informs. Now let's dive into the first strategy. And remember, each one builds on the last, so you'll want to follow along step by step. It all starts with a notion many people get wrong, an idea that might have you second-guessing everything you've heard about brain training in your golden years. Let's talk about the first myth-shattering idea, the concept that your brain has a use-by date and stops changing after 75. Far from it. Modern neuroscientists have found that the brain maintains its capacity to rewire itself, called neuroplasticity, well into our later years, provided we give it the right stimulation. Many seniors assume mental decline is inevitable, and so they unknowingly adopt a passive approach to their cognitive health. But here's the bold reality. Mental stagnation often occurs not just because we're aging, but because we're not actively nudging our minds to adapt and grow. Helen, who is now 79, used to believe the same misconception. She was convinced her forgetfulness was simply nature taking its course. She'd find herself wandering into the kitchen for something and promptly forgetting what it was. She'd struggle to learn new phone functions or recall names of acquaintances. "I guess my mind just isn't what it used to be," she'd say. Then she stumbled upon a surprising truth in an interview with a neuroscience researcher who explained that challenging new activities, especially those that go beyond simple puzzles, can actually form fresh neural pathways. Helen decided to try watercolor painting, something she'd never done before. She not only learned new color mixing techniques, but also discovered subtle improvements in her memory. A month into her new hobby, she noticed she could more readily recall not just friends' names, but also details from conversations long past. The surprising twist? It wasn't any expensive memory supplement. It was her brain's own capacity to adapt to novel challenges. This leads to a key piece of practical advice. Pick up something that feels entirely foreign. Maybe it's a new language. Maybe it's an instrument you've never played. Or perhaps it's a style of dance that looks completely unfamiliar. Avoid relying solely on crosswords or word searches you've done for decades. Engage in something that genuinely puzzles you, that pushes your brain into uncharted territory. When your mind is forced to adapt to something it can't do on autopilot, it responds by forging new neural connections. And the emotional benefit? It's huge. You regain the sense of wonder and excitement that often fades with age, and you gain renewed confidence in your own mental agility. Think about the difference between walking the same path through your neighborhood every day versus hiking a brand new trail. The familiar path doesn't challenge your sense of direction or balance anymore. The new trail, however, forces you to watch your footing, stay alert for signs, and adapt to the terrain. Your brain thrives on that novelty. It's not about turning your whole life upside down. It's about giving your mind fresh terrain to explore so it doesn't settle into mental complacency. Next, let's take a closer look at a second point that might run counter to everything you've heard: the role of physical exercise in boosting cognitive function. Most of us know that staying active is generally good for overall health, but there's a lingering misconception that exercise only matters for weight management or heart health. In reality, consistent movement, especially certain types, can profoundly impact the brain well into your 70s, 80s, and beyond. A lot of seniors think walking around the block or doing mild stretching is enough to count as exercise. That's the misconception. While mild activity is certainly better than nothing, truly impactful exercise for brain health involves a bit more challenge. It's not about running marathons, but about periodically elevating the heart rate enough to send a stronger dose of oxygen-rich blood to the brain. This helps foster neurogenesis, which is the creation of new brain cells. Researchers have observed in older adults that moderate to challenging physical activities can directly enhance memory centers in the brain, particularly the hippocampus. And that's where the magic happens for maintaining a sharp mind. To illustrate, meet Robert, age 80, who'd never stepped foot in a gym until he turned 77. A retired accountant, he'd spent most of his life seated behind a desk. When his grandson suggested they start a gentle weight training routine together, Robert scoffed. "I'm too old for that," he said, believing strenuous activity could do more harm than good. The first few sessions felt awkward. He worried about injury and questioned whether it was worth the trouble. But after a few weeks, he started noticing he could focus better while reading novels. Details like characters' names and plot twists stuck in his memory more vividly. Intrigued by this unexpected bonus, Robert continued, eventually adding short intervals of brisk walking on a treadmill. Now, 3 years later, he speaks enthusiastically about how his memory and attention span are more alive than they've been in years. He jokes that people half his age have trouble keeping up with his curiosity about the world. The surprising insight? Exercise isn't just about muscles or the heart. It's a powerful cognitive stimulus that can slow, even reverse, certain aspects of age-related mental decline. Think of it this way. Your brain loves a healthy blood supply. Every time your heart rate climbs, you're delivering an extra surge of nutrients and oxygen upstairs, where it all matters. So here's your practical, actionable advice. Try a simple routine that alternates between gentle and moderately elevated intensity. For instance, begin with 5 minutes of light walking, then increase the pace for 2 minutes, then drop back down. If you prefer seated exercises, alternate between a comfortable pace and one that makes you breathe a bit harder. This little interval approach can pay dividends in mental clarity. The emotional benefit is twofold. You'll feel more confident in your body's ability to stay active, and you'll experience the mental boost that comes from treating your brain to a fresh supply of oxygen. And here's a quick engagement check. If you're still with me and finding this information valuable, please comment with the number 2 below so I know you've made it to this point. Also, if you haven't yet subscribed, it might be a great time to do so. These simple gestures help us keep this channel thriving so we can continue bringing you information that can change your life for the better. Moving on, the third game changer has to do with the power of social engagement, a factor too many seniors underestimate. There's a commonly held misconception that as we age, it's normal and even acceptable to become more isolated, that social interactions are nice to have, but not essential. However, recent explorations in neuroscience reveal that genuine social connections can act like a protective buffer for our cognitive faculties. The opposite is also true. Loneliness and isolation can accelerate cognitive decline. Consider Irene, who is 82 and lives on her own. For years, she stayed home most days, seeing other people only when her son or daughter-in-law visited. She told herself it was simpler that way. However, she noticed a gradual deterioration in her mental clarity. She felt a haze around her thoughts and her memory started slipping more noticeably. Everything changed when she joined a small weekly gardening club at her local community center. At first, she just wanted advice on how to manage her new tomato plants, but she ended up finding a community of like-minded seniors. They chatted about planting techniques, swapped homemade recipes, and leaned on each other for support. In just a few months, Irene felt significantly more mentally alert. She'd come home from each gathering energized and excited to share new tips she learned. The difference went beyond feeling cheerful. She discovered she was recalling names, addresses, even phone numbers much more quickly than before. The key was the emotional stimulation that comes from meaningful interactions. Scientists describe how social engagement can spark neurological pathways in a way solitary activities can't, blending emotional, cognitive, and often physical stimulation, like walking to meet friends or engaging in communal activities. The surprising insight here is that our brains are wired for connection, and when we feed that basic human need, we nourish our mental agility as well. While solitary pastimes, reading, crossword puzzles, or even solitary walks are beneficial, they lack the unpredictable variety that social interactions bring. Each conversation challenges the mind to follow threads of thought, interpret emotional cues, and respond in kind. So, if you're wondering what you can do, here's a clear, actionable step. Join a group activity that resonates with your interests or attend a local senior meetup once a week. Even a virtual group can offer significant mental stimulation. Try social media groups dedicated to gardening, painting, or book clubs. The emotional payoff is huge. You feel more alive, more connected, and that sense of belonging can lift your spirits in ways you might not expect. Once your emotions are elevated, your brain gets a powerful signal to stay sharp and engaged. Imagine the contrast of spending most afternoons in silence versus anticipating the laughter and conversation of a group activity. Humans thrive in the presence of others. The same is true for our brains, which stay on alert, processing, learning, remembering, whenever we socialize in meaningful ways. Next up is our fourth foundational approach to brain health: harnessing the power of quality sleep. A damaging misconception persists that older adults need less sleep or that rest becomes less important. In truth, research shows that sleep quality, and the lack of it, can significantly influence cognitive function in seniors. So many people think, I'm fine on 5 hours. I'm old after all, but neglecting deep, restorative rest can be a fast track to memory issues and diminished cognitive performance. Brent, age 77, spent most nights channel surfing until midnight, then woke up at 5:30 a.m. to start his day. It never bothered him much in his younger years. He'd lived the same pattern for decades. However, he began experiencing alarming gaps in his short-term memory. He'd greet his neighbor in the morning and then forget the conversation entirely by lunch. Concerned, he tried memory supplements, repeated mental exercises, and even changed his diet, but saw minimal improvement. Finally, after watching a documentary on the importance of sleep for brain health, he committed to a bedtime routine that prioritized 7 to 8 hours of quality rest. He turned off the television by 9 p.m., dimmed the lights to signal winding down, and listened to soothing music or an audiobook to help him relax. Over the next month, he noticed a remarkable difference in his recall abilities. Everyday details like items he needed at the grocery store or messages he wanted to relay to his children began sticking more reliably. This begs the surprising insight. The quality of your memory, your alertness, and even your mood hinges on how well you rest. During deeper stages of sleep, the brain essentially cleans house, flushing out toxins and consolidating memories. This housekeeping process is crucial at any age, but especially for seniors, where every bit of mental clarity counts. The practical advice is straightforward. Create a bedtime routine that tells your body and mind it's time to wind down. This can include avoiding bright screens an hour before bed, keeping your bedroom cool and quiet, or practicing gentle stretches to relax tense muscles. The emotional benefit is enormous. Once you start experiencing nights of solid, restful sleep, you'll wake up feeling more hopeful, energized, and mentally on point. There's a renewed sense of possibility when you're not battling fatigue or that hazy feeling that comes from poor rest. Now, if you're still with me and recognizing the value in these points, please comment with the number 4 below. And if you haven't already subscribed and turned on notifications, I encourage you to do so. Each viewer who stays engaged helps build our community of seniors determined to live with clarity, vitality, and joy. Finally, let's delve into our fifth and perhaps most unexpected point, combining mental exercises with mindful relaxation. This method leverages something called brainwave entrainment, a scientifically observed phenomenon where certain relaxation techniques help synchronize neural activity, creating an ideal environment for learning and memory retention. Many seniors think they must power through brain workouts like memory games or speed drills without pause. But that misconception overlooks a crucial truth. The brain can absorb and integrate new information more effectively if we periodically shift it into a calmer, more receptive state. Take Leonard, 83, who was determined to improve his mental sharpness. He tried every puzzle book and brain training app he could find, often spending hours at a time pushing himself to remember lists or solve riddles. Yet he still felt frustrated by slow progress. Then, in a turn of events, he started experimenting with a simple meditative practice, just 5 minutes of slow breathing and visualization before and after each mental exercise session. Within a few weeks, Leonard reported feeling less scattered and more focused during the training. He also noticed he retained what he learned more effectively the next day. The hidden key was the combination of a calm, steady mind and deliberate mental challenges. By gently easing his brain into a more relaxed, receptive state, he was priming it for deeper learning. Imagine it like planting seeds. You can throw a handful of seeds onto hard, dry ground and hope for the best, or you can gently till the soil, water it, and create a suitable environment where those seeds can truly grow. Mindful relaxation is the tilling and watering your brain needs. When your mind isn't clouded by stress or anxiety, it's more open to forming stronger connections. The practical tip is to begin any memory or learning exercise with a brief relaxation technique. This can be as simple as a few slow, deep breaths while counting to 4 on each inhale and exhale, or visualizing a peaceful scene, a beach at sunrise, a calm forest, or a favorite quiet spot in your home. Then focus on the mental task you want to master. End the session with another short relaxation period to let your mind settle. The emotional benefit is profound. Not only does learning become easier, but you also cultivate a sense of tranquility and well-being that spills over into the rest of your day. All 5 strategies, embracing novelty, weaving in moderate exercise, fostering social connections, prioritizing high-quality sleep, and integrating mindful relaxation, have the power to give you back a sense of mastery over your mind. It's not about avoiding aging. It's about harnessing the remarkable resilience your brain still holds. Let's bring all these threads together. Look at where we started. The fear and uncertainty many of us feel when our minds seem to falter, even in small ways. Remember Claire, the friend who couldn't recall her neighbor's name? The real problem wasn't just memory lapses. It was the creeping feeling of losing one's identity and capability. Every one of these strategies builds on the hope that you have more power over your cognitive health than you might realize. You truly do. This is the transformation that's possible, going from someone who silently resigns themselves to mental decline to someone who confidently challenges the idea that getting older means losing mental acuity. I want to urge you to begin implementing at least one of these strategies today. Not next week, not next month. Today. If you only focus on one, start with the one that resonates most deeply with you. That sense of urgency can make all the difference. Each day you delay is another day you risk reinforcing old, unhelpful patterns in your brain. But each day you embrace these tactics is another day you're laying a foundation for better clarity, better memory, and a more vibrant life. Take a moment now to imagine what your life looks like once you've put these strategies into action. Envision yourself engaging in a new activity that sparks curiosity and joy. Picture your body feeling energized from regular, moderate exercise. See yourself laughing with friends or a community group, ending the day with a restful night's sleep, and then gently cultivating a calm mind before diving into mental exercises that sharpen your intellect. When you mentally rehearse this scenario, you pave the way for it to become your reality. I'd love to hear which of the 5 strategies spoke to you most powerfully. Were you drawn to the idea of novelty? Or maybe you're excited to try mindful relaxation before your next brain game? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And even more importantly, share how you plan to use what you learned today. If a certain step feels challenging, let us know. This community is here to support you with additional tips and encouragement. Your voice matters. When you comment, you're not only reinforcing your own learning, you're also helping others see what's possible. And if you found any piece of this video helpful, I encourage you to like, subscribe, and share. Send this to a friend, a sibling, or a neighbor who might also be worried about losing their mental edge. Sometimes one piece of insight can spark a life-changing shift. Above all, remember this. You have an extraordinary capacity for growth, even now. The brain is a miraculous organ, ready to adapt if you give it the chance. So take what you've learned, put it into practice, and let yourself feel the excitement that comes from discovering you're not just a passenger in this journey, you're in the driver's seat. With each small step, you reclaim a bit more control, a bit more clarity, and a whole lot more hope. Thank you for spending this time with me. It's been an honor and a joy to share these insights with you. I can't wait to hear your success stories and see you flourish. Until next time, stay curious, stay hopeful, and never forget that the journey to a sharper, stronger mind can begin right now, no matter your age.